Alright, good morning. It is Friday morning. I'm on my way to work. And Christmas was Wednesday. I didn't get a damn thing done this week. I thought about doing something after the festivities on Christmas, but I just didn't really feel like it. Plus, it was cold as balls. And then yesterday, it was raining. Not real heavy, but I obviously didn't want any of the spray to get on all the exposed metal, and I just didn't feel like it, so I didn't do anything. Took the week off, rested, whatever. So I don't like leaving you guys without content, so I am going to go ahead and drop the first part of the dashboard video. I feel like I ruffled some feathers maybe talking about the dashboards. So let me preface this by saying I have absolutely nothing against using the modern interior in the classic car. I have nothing against using the modern dashboard in a classic car. My I guess dismay was people leaving the modern dashboard in the classic car and fitting the car around the dashboard when it seemed like it would make more sense to fit the dashboard to the classic car. A lot of these modern cars have such a rake on the windshield. You've got a dashboard that's deep enough to land an airplane on. Like the dashboard in the Rambler is 7 inches deep. I mean, it's like nothing. I mean, I think a Volkswagen Bug is a little bit less than that. A CJ Jeep is less than that, but not much else is. So I literally had 22 inches of dashboard, and like a lot of other people's builds, it would have been out beyond the cowl, beyond the firewall. I would have lost my defrost. The bulge in the top of the dash where the gauge cluster went, that would have been cut in half. The gauge cluster would have been almost up against the windshield. So trying to fit that so I could leave it in there, it just, I would have had to cut the cowl out of the Rambler, and so then I would have lost the wipers. It just didn't make any sense. So I made this video to show, okay, we're going to use the Civic HVAC, all and we ended up using CRV controls. The vents, are aftermarket. The gauge cluster, Civic gauge cluster, fit to the Rambler dash opening. Had to modify the glove box. I'm actually in the middle of doing that right now. All those little things. And they could be done. So I don't know. I think I made the comment that I didn't understand if it was just laziness or what, but that really wasn't the right word. I think it's more like intimidation. It's like, to try to modify the dashboard to fit the car seemed like a lot of work. And it is a lot of work. I'm not going to try to make it seem like it's so simple. But, it could be done. I've been doing it on my lunch breaks at work. So, an hour here, hour there. I've been getting little things done. And then working on it. Like I did actually Tuesday evening, I did do a little bit of work to the dashboard. I trimmed the glove box opening, and that's about all I did. But so I'll go ahead and post up this video, see if you guys like it. If you have any suggestions, comments you'd like to make, questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. That's what it's there for. And again, like I said, I'm not against using the modern stuff in the classic car. If you're going to use the modern stuff, it made more sense to me to spend the time to modify it to fit the classic car rather than modify the classic car to fit the dash. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy it. If I offended anybody with my video, I apologize. That wasn't really my intention, but have at it. I've developed a terrible habit of doing work without filming it, or videoing it, or however the hell you want to say it. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm feeling pretty burned out on the golf cart right now. I haven't been well the last couple weeks, and with all the crap yesterday with the cat, I figured instead of sitting in the house doing nothing, I can come over here and do something. So I'm kind of dinking around with this Honda. I've got the dashboard out. I was trying to keep it in one piece in case I had to use it, but now we've gone past the point of no return and we're gonna have to use it. So there's the Rambler dash. I have another one, so if I mess this one up, then we're okay. I modified the gauge cluster slightly. I cut this piece of the black out. I'll have to get a flat piece of plastic, drill it for the two knobs. And I modified the opening slightly. I need to do a little more there. I think I need to open it up just a little bit on top, and then that'll be good. Looks like I'm going to have to cut that out right there. But so far, I think we're doing okay. Now, obviously, it's not going to come anywhere near the front there, which is fine because the Rambler windshield's going to be way back here anyway. I need to finish taking my measurements. Some people might look at this thing and go, but why don't you, make the thing run before you commit to doing the swap? Well, there is that. Where'd all my pieces go? Anyway, so yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to notch that. I really didn't want to do that, but anyway. So, I appear to have dropped my set that back there so it doesn't get damaged. I bought a set of coils for it. I bought the cheapest coils I could find because I don't want to invest a bunch of money in something that may or may not work. Oh, there they are. So, like I said, people might ask, why don't you make this thing work? Why don't you make it run first? You know, well, there you go. You hear that? The blend door actuator, mode door actuator is bad. So that can get changed before all this gets done. Filters actually don't look too dirty. This will be the first car I've ever owned that actually has them. So, sounds pretty good to me. I gotta finish cutting this out. I gotta leave this piece in. One, because it ties everything together. Two, because the steering column hangs off of it. I would have to build a new something to hold it up. And three, because I think the pedals might hang off of it too. So, yeah. I'm going to mark that to get it cut out, and then I'll have to build something to cover it. We should see. So I don't really know how this is going to work out in the with the Rambler body. As you can see, the shape of the inside of the car goes out, so it's a lot wider at the bottom than it is at the top. It's actually narrower at the top. And this, I don't know how far forward it has to go body-wise. I do know that the front of the windshield is going to be out roughly where the cowl is. It does look like I need to take those brackets off and get this thing just like all the way up against that heater box there. And that's a deal breaker. I have to be able to run that heater. So if I have to actually add metal to the back of this and bring it out, so be it. I don't think I'm going to have to though, because again, I think that windshield edge is going to be underneath the cowl, so I'll probably have to cap that off somehow, figure out how to tie the HVAC in to it. Ugh, I don't know, but I want all that to work like it's supposed to. But I mean, we're pretty well past the point of no return, putting the Honda dash back in. I really don't want to run a modern dash, because you'll lose defroster and all that, but that's not really something I need to worry about at the moment. That can all be actually figured out after that's swapped. The dashboard anyway. The cowl will have to be figured out probably as we're doing it. Do as much as I can before we cut them apart. My goal is to get this car completely cut up before winter. I don't remember when the class starts. I think the next class starts in September, so that's way too early, but if I can get it ready for the winter class, have this thing completely cut down to where it's just the chassis, the firewall, the engine compartment, head gasket put in, running, driving, everything mechanically sound, then haul them both down to the school and do the swap there, because the school will actually have the lift. As long as somebody isn't monopolizing it, I can get in there and lift the body off, roll this one underneath it, get in there, start, trimming the little edges and all that stuff up, and eventually get it tied together. And they got good welders down there, so get it all tied together, get as much welding as I possibly can get done before class is out, and then get it titled, tagged, and start driving it. And then I can deal with, I could drive it with just the gauge cluster sitting in. I can deal with the dashboard afterwards. I can deal with interior afterwards. I can deal with, all this stuff afterwards. I plan to run the center console, because obviously what are you going to do with that? I'm going to run the center console. I want to run that little insert that goes in there that's got the cigarette lighter on it. And then I'll have to tie it to the dash, which is why I want to keep that stuff. So if I have to chop that off to get that up as far to the heater box as possible, that was my soda, then I can actually just make some little brackets and bolt those to the bottom of the dash, and that would work out nice. This, if I take this radio delete plate off, cut everything out behind it, and actually weld it as flush as I possibly can to the dash, maybe even cut this out and just make this smooth, then I might be able to run the Honda HVAC controls, because these ones are going to be the hard ones to run. It's supposed to sit like that at an angle, and I thought about moving them over here to where the original Rambler stuff was, but I'd have to mount this thing like this, and I don't know. I mean, all the knobs would be sideways. These will be easy peasy. Drill 3 holes in somewhere, probably right here where these 3 holes are. Drill 3 holes, figure out the exact spacing of the bolt holes that hold it on, weld bolts to the back, and then thread a washer onto them, figure out the depth of the switch, get that nut set, and then put a nut on the other side, Loctite the bottom nut, epoxy the bottom nut, do whatever I gotta do, and then they'll sit nice. But if I'm gonna do that, then I may as well put, the other controls there as well. Maybe those would fit here. I don't think they will, but it's kind of weird having all the HVAC controls on the left side of the dash, but that was a Rambler thing. They were all like that. And then some other cars were. I remember the Mavericks were all way over here too. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to do tonight, though. I'm going to get my mess picked up, get this all shut down, get the battery disconnected, just in case, and call it a night. Pulled up to work here, stopped off, got the mail on the way in, and my plexiglass sheet has come, as well as another camera mount, but let me show you here. Deal on it, it's 1/4 inch thick, and 24 by 12, I think. More than big enough for a cluster. So that's the idea here. I'm going to tape it in, or tape it in. I'm going to take it in and tape it up with masking tape just over the top of this stuff so it doesn't get scratched. And I will trace the cluster out on it. I got to add a few inches on the side. I'm going to go quite a bit more just to make damn sure I don't miss. And get it cut out, get it drilled out, because I got to drill it out for these two buttons. But yeah, that's the plan here. I got to go to work, but I'll be back later. Okay, so last night after I got done, I went inside of my chair, grabbed the dashboard here, grabbed the cluster, and I discovered that it's not going to fit as is. Now, when I cut the plexiglass, I just cut it, you know, kind of make sure there was enough on there that I wasn't going to be too short. And of course it's too long, so it hits up here. So right now I need to come in and I need to trim it about here. I may cut the corners a little bit too. The other thing I did is I demasked it, sanded that area because that's where it's going to be bonded, glued to this piece. And the idea is it won't let the glue go where I don't want it to go, and then when I'm done, I'll just peel the masking tape off and pull it through the gauge holes. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and then make sure it'll fit inside there. Okay, so looks like I got everything pretty well trimmed down. Maybe not. That ridge looks like it might be hitting up top there, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. One interesting thing, this is hitting, and it's actually giving me about 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch of play. I'll show you that in a second, but it gives me the opportunity to have hardware. You know, I can put this thing together easily that way. So I think I'm going to leave it. Now the problem, the negative side of that is this. So with that being there, I'll flip this over. See, there's kind of a gap there, which I think is actually going to be fine. My original plan was to have some of that door edge guard and just put it around the sheet metal there, but I cut this actually too thin, so I'm not going back in there and welding to it, no. I'll have to cap this off because the top ridge of this is actually in line with this, which is where it would bolt on. And I think what I'll do is cap that, drill it out, put a machine screw through the hole, and then weld it, and then grind the head of the machine screw off, and then maybe weld it again and then grind it. And there you go. Top part though is I'll just come through here. I got to make sure that this clears the defroster duct, but I'll just weld a little piece of sheet metal in right behind that, and so that thing will slide in there. It'll have a piece of rubber or weather stripping or something on it so it doesn't rattle. It'll just slide up inside there because it'll come down to about here or so. Slide in there and then go onto those studs. Done. Yeah, that's going to work out pretty well, I think. I do need to check those defrosters though. I need to get to town though. Go get the argon tank filled and then get back to work on the car. Okay, so real quick here before I have to go to work. This is my plan. So I just need to weld this in place. I gotta drill a couple holes in it so I can plug weld it kind of close to the edge there, and then I'll just put a couple tacks in on the back. And then I gotta drill a hole. I gotta cap this off and drill a hole. And that should be, I mean, the screws will be what holds the the cluster in place, but this will keep it from moving that way, and I'll put like a piece of weather strip or something on that back edge so it won't rattle. And then, like I said before, I need to get a piece of 1/4-inch bar and weld it on the back side of this here, and bring that back out just a little bit, kind of to fill in the gap, because there will be about a 1/4-inch gap there. And then, of course, this isn't real smooth, so there's a gap all along here. That'll take care of that. It'll give it a little more strength too, because I think I'm going to need to trim this all the way up to there. So I will need that bar, or this thing will just be too flimsy to even use. So yeah, real quick, I'm going to get in there, drill those holes, and I'm just going to use the flux core to weld that in. Okay, I got to run, but here's where we're at. Got this thing welded up, a little bit of filler in the end there, and I just gotta kind of hit that with the flapper disc or the belt sander. Got this welded up, got it adjusted a bit, and this will clean up with the flapper disc. I don't even think I need to use any filler on it, but yeah, it's definitely not going anywhere. So one thing I did figure out is trying to slide the cluster in there. It hits this ridge as it's going in, so that's a problem. What I may end up doing is putting a machine screw and a nut, tack a nut in there, or just leave it, and then once it's all put together, then tighten the screw up into it. But I gotta go, so just got that done real quick. I've decided I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out here in the middle and just put a flat piece of metal in there, and I'm probably gonna do the same up here where the speaker grill was, maybe. I haven't decided on that yet. If I did that, then I can get those ball style vents and just stick them straight up here, which would be better, because down here they'll be blowing on my hands rather than up here they'll be blowing up in my face. So anyway, that's it. Okay, I gotta get clocked back in here from lunch, but this is really ugly. I just used the flux core to tack it in place, and I used it here. I turned the heat way up and the wire speed way down to get the wire good and hot so I can get it around this curve better. It really doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it's on there. Got a little too hot here. I couldn't really see it very well when I was trying to tag it. I can hit all this with the belt sander, get it cleaned up, and then we'll go ahead and finish it off with the MIG. But first I want to get it as clean as I can before that. Okay, I have a wild hair, and I've been needing to move the steering column to get the wheel out at least an inch, preferably 2 inches. And so I had a couple ideas here. I got that about 1/4 of an inch, as you can see right there. I just loosened up the bolt, but I didn't take it out. I just loosened it up, slid it out, tightened it back up, because there's a notch in there that'll keep it from falling out. And then here, there's a soft plastic, probably polyethylene, polypropylene, probably polyethylene, that is designed in a severe crash to collapse the column. So this will stab into there and collapse it 6 inches or so instead of it pushing the steering wheel into your face. We're gonna do away with that, actually. What my plan is to heat it up until the plastic gets super soft and slide this out. The problem is, I checked with my super duper technical measuring device here, and I think it was this side. Yeah, I know this is ghetto as hell, but anyway, So the end of that shaft, the solid end of the shaft, is just above that hole. So to slide this thing out an inch would put me way out here at the end, which would be fine if I was going to weld it. I don't really want to do that, but if I have to, I will. So we're going to melt the plastic some and slide this out an inch and see what happens at that point. I mean, the other thing, I've got these holes here in this bracket. So if I can bolt it right into those holes, that'd be great. Out here, I'm probably going to have to add a chunk of metal to get the back bolts. Plus, I could space these back bolts, and that would give me a little more height. A little more tilt, but a little more height. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to go ahead and try this out first. Okay, so that was a fail. I'm going to have to weld it. And as you can see, an inch would put me roughly down here where this notch is, so I'd have to weld it anyway, but I don't consider that enough meat to be safe. It's not the end of the world. I mean, I could get in there, melt the rest of this plastic out, and just plug weld it through that hole there and then weld it on the outside. One thing I do want to bring to your all's attention. With this column disconnected right now, you turn the wheel, it's just going to spin. Well, this thing has a clock spring. It's right there. So it's basically a coil of really thin wire in a strip that is designed to let the steering wheel turn. You know, of course, if you don't know, if you already know, this isn't for you. But if you don't know, and it lets the cruise control work and the airbag work and the horn work and all that other crap that's in your steering wheel. You do not want to turn the wheel. You don't even want to get the clocking wrong. So you got to be super careful right now, or you'll rip that thing right out of there. Or it'll be too short one way and you'll rip it out when you go to turn. I think if you're going to mess with it off the car, get you some vice grips, clamp them on there, and yeah, that way you can't turn it. So the idea now is hit that with the torch, melt that plastic off. Hit that with the torch, let the plastic kind of melt down inside there. It's not going to hurt anything, it's not going to go anywhere. And then from there, get it back on, placed where I want it, and get it tacked, and make sure that it's going to turn and that the shaft is straight, so it's not doing this crap when I'm trying to turn. The golf cart kind of does that. It's not really a problem on a golf cart, but on this, it would be a problem. So let me get back on that. Okay, so it's time for me to tack this thing up. I got to be really careful over here with the fuse box. I got a piece of metal I'll put in there. Hopefully it won't burn all this crap up on the floor. Undercoating and sound deadening. I'll just have to be really careful with it. But it has to be done because the plastic takes up a lot of space in there. So as you can see, it's just floppy. So we'll get that situated, tacked, made sure that it's even, and then weld it up around and then fill in those holes. All right, excuse the sound of the air compressor. Keep getting sidetracked on other things. I found out something interesting. These microfiber towels aren't cotton, they're plastic of some kind, because when I tried to wipe off the melted plastic, it just melted it and made a bigger mess. Anyway, here's where we are. It's not pretty, I don't care, it's definitely strong. I had the entire thing, shaft, everything glowing red, so I know it was definitely getting some penetration in there. And I got these two tightened up, and it's not going anywhere, but I'm not going to leave it like that. I need to drill it out back here and get a nut and a bolt in there, or a big fat washer on that. Just come over here, just enough to make damn sure it's not going anywhere. All right, so now I'm going to get on what I started with and blow out the cowl. I'll blow all this crap out too. and get that fiberglass resin in there. I need to get it in there and get it set up as quick as possible because I don't want to be working and welding and cutting and risking it catching on fire with the fumes. So that's where I'm going next. Alrighty, so there's the dash. Now, so that little bit that I did here with the steering wheel bought me everything I need, I think. It's kind of close to my belly, but I think it will be okay. It definitely got me away from here. And I don't know, we'll see. I don't know if that's gonna still interfere or not. I got the wire in there. I went ahead and just kind of filled in some of the little gaps there. And I built up this edge a little bit because it was pretty low, so I need to hit that with the grinder tomorrow. And I think I'll drill the holes, the 2 holes for the bolts on the bottom, and then that'll probably be pretty much it for that. A little bit of filler, just, you know, to kind of fill in this little gap here between the two. And then this needs to get cut out and completely filled with a piece of metal. And then I can figure out what to do with the HVAC. It's not going to have a radio in it. It's going to have a Bluetooth receiver like I do with all my other cars. Okay, so that's it for the night. I'm going to wheel this thing on in there and put it up. And then tomorrow, I'll get back on it. And then tomorrow's Wednesday, Thursday is Thanksgiving. I doubt I'm going to be able to get much done then. But that's it for tonight. Alrighty, I spent my lunch break on this. I ended up moving it slightly. I went ahead and notched this a little bit. You know, I didn't have to, but I think it looks better. Basically, I'm going to take a fingerful of Bondo and just kind of come along these edges here. Fill in the area between the metal and the rod. You got, like, right there. And then here, it's going to be right up against it. I'm not going to pull this off until after it's basically all done. Like, the very last time that thing goes into the dashboard is when the paper gets pulled off. So somehow I screwed up. I had everything lined up. I cut these notches, or I should say I took the belt sander and ground those notches out. And then I drilled the holes, and I must have slipped because the holes don't line up at all. And the plan here is to basically, you know, take this back out, of course, but hit that with the welder until it melts the bolt into the sheet metal here, and then there'll be no head on it, and the stud will stay there afterward. I got this all cut out. I just need to cut out a piece of metal. I thought for a second about using the delete plate. I would have had to do a bunch of trimming and grinding to make it sit flush, but then I would have been left with the ashtray and the cigarette lighter, which was punched out. So we're going to start fresh. But that's it for lunch break work. We're going to get closed up here, and we'll get on this another time. Okay, I'm going to wrap up my lunch break here. So I got this all cut out the other day. I got a template made, patch cut out. Had to make a bunch of relief cuts to get it to curve. There might be a better way of doing that. I think there's a shrinker stretcher, but I don't have one, so. And now I just got to trim it to get it down. I originally had a flange bent up here, so I can weld it here and leave this gap up here, but it was too high, so I had to cut it off. I'll probably end up welding it back on though. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and I need to cut. This is hard to do with one hand. I need to cut that corner off, and then I need to trim this a little bit to get it on there. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I don't have my hood, and I don't want to go overboard with the flux core. That being said, it looks like it tacked up pretty nice. Little corner work I gotta do there, but yeah, so that's not very even, but I don't even think you'll be able to see that. The dash sits in the car like this, so you know. I don't know for sure if it's even going to line up with the glove box door. Looking at that, probably not. I don't know, but if I can remember to do it, I'll grab the glove box door tomorrow and bring it with me. But yeah, I need to weld this with the MIG. But that came out pretty good. Actually, even better than I expected it to. So I'll just get it tacked around there. I'm going to go ahead and just weld this. I was trying to keep this gap, but I think, you know, it's symmetrical, having the gap on both sides. Even if it's not here, it's not a big deal. Yeah, so that's it. So what I did get done with this, you know, obviously this is just tacked in. I got this edge. I went ahead and made a cut here and just kind of knocked it over and got that pretty much straight where it needs to go. I need to go pull the screws out of the 61 for the glove box door. So all this is pretty well done. I need to take the welder and just basically melt that away so that the studs will be permanently attached and I can grind that flat. But yeah, that's it for this right now. I'll probably go ahead and do some things with it when the sun goes down, but I need to test fit it. I've also got the glove box itself, the liner. Now it's like a polyethylene, polypropylene plastic. And again, this is from 1962, so it's in remarkable shape for being as old as it is, especially since the glove box was open all those years. But it did have a pretty major crack up here. And so I did that to fix it. Obviously, it's not very straight, but I was more focused on fixing the actual crack. There's a crack there, and then, of course, these holes are torn out. So hopefully, I think there was a crack in the corner. I don't know. Yeah, there's a little crack in that corner there. And a little crack there. But hopefully I can move those screws over. I gotta clean this truck out. Yeah, see. So if I can move the screw over to there and there, maybe here, probably not there. I need to weld that up. You know, that would fix that issue. I think there's supposed to be a speed nut on it too, but I don't know. So that's about all I'm gonna worry about on that. I think the piece is still there. Yeah, I could move that over. I could even move that over there. Although I doubt there's any strength up there. Okay, that's it for that. I'm gonna go jump over here and try to get something done. Okay, so finishing up today, working on the dash here. I got this all welded up with the MIG welder. Got it all ground down, and it actually came out better than I thought it was going to. Got a tiny little low spot down here. And I mean, you can barely see the weld there. Tiny little low spot here and possibly a higher spot there, but I think a little bit of filler, just a real thin skim of filler will fix that. Over here, you can see I ground through that corner, so same thing, a little bit of filler to fix that. Here's going to be, I mean, to try to cut this out, I think would have been a lot more work. And I think would have opened the possibilities for any mistakes. So I just left it. I closed it off, but I left it. And I could put a push button there for the horn. I could put a push-pull switch for the fog lights. I could put a cigarette lighter. I could put anything there. This side over here, same thing. I just, basically the head of that screw, I just welded it until it was basically melted to the rest of it, and then ground off what I welded. And so those studs inside there, those little machine screws, are now permanently placed, which you can't really see because of the shadow. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is one thing that's been bothering me, is whether or not I was going to have to trim a bunch off of this escutcheon here, this plastic. And I'm not. As you can see, without messing with it, it clears. Of course, it wouldn't have before I modified the steering column, but it's there. Now, at the very highest setting, it does push in to the dash some. You can hardly even see it on this camera. Let's see. See, we're talking 1/4 inch. And so what I'm gonna need to do is get the gauge cluster in there, get it all set, and then see if this flexing affects the cluster at all. If it puts pressure on the cluster. I don't think it will though, because you can't really see. Let's see. Let's see if we can get a better look at it. Okay, so down here, that's the bottom edge of the dash, and then right there is the other bottom. So you see that left side is higher than the right side. So when I got done welding that wire, or the rod in there, that's how it ended up, warped, whatever. I think that this edge, and if you kind of zoom out here, you might be able to see it. Maybe, maybe not. It kind of looks like this corner is out compared to over here, compared to here. So I think this corner needs to come out a little bit, but I think that one needs to go in, and then everything will clear. Either way, I don't need to worry about that right now. So the dash came out good. It's obviously not done. We're going to have a vent here, 2 vents here, but I might put them up here. I kind of like this grill. I don't really want to mess with it, but I really do think that the vents coming out of the top of the dash would be better than coming out of here. But simplicity rules, so we'll see. And then another vent over here, although there's not a whole lot of real estate there, but I'm pretty sure there's 2 inches. I don't have a tape measure really handy, but yeah. And then we have this. So I need to check the fitment of that. I don't think I can get it from the bottom, so that means I got to pull the dash back off, but we'll see. Okay, just got a little bit of time here. I'm going to show you what I was doing. So now that we know the CRV controls are going to work, now I got to figure out how to fit them. I'm going to mount them down here, and they're going to sit at this angle here. I got to make some kind of bracket to fit it. The other thing I'm going to do, this is a Bluetooth receiver / amplifier. I don't run car stereos anymore. I get these things, and this one's pretty nice. You got your power volume, you've got your bass treble, you've got your treble volume, you've got your bass volume, and then your bass frequency. So it's designed to run with a subwoofer. I'm just going to run both of my rear speakers off of that circuit. So I got these holes drilled out. That's where it's going to sit. I need to get a piece of, I'd like to get a piece of machine turn aluminum or stainless and make a escutcheon, a face for that. Regardless, even if it's just a piece of stainless or a piece of aluminum, that's something's going to go over that and cover this hole here and then this stuff. I got this hole drilled out, but not very well. I tried to hog it out a little bit, and I ended up going all over the place. I still need to weld that and that anyway, so I'll just put a dollop there. It's just a push button on off for the fog lights. That's why I didn't cut all that off. I think my Christmas present from Christy is going to be the outlets. So we'll get those cut out. And then once it's all cut out, I'd like to sandblast this thing. Hopefully. If I can sandblast it, then I'll Bondo this all up. Get it smooth where it needs to be. Get all these edges where they need to be. Yeah. So right now I'm going to see about cutting these out. Those are for the sides here. Just kind of filler panels. And then I might be able to connect them to whatever is on here to actually mount them. Or they might be enough as they are to mount them. Regardless, I'm going to get started. I've only got a little bit of time. Okay, so a little progress I was making has come to a screeching halt because this just arrived. And I really, 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 really want to get on it. I have been obsessing and stressing over this project, this thing, ever since I first started trying to adapt the dashboard, to the point that it's giving me a headache. It's giving me migraines. To the point, I mean, I have searched and searched for schematics. I have looked for pinouts. I haven't found anything very worthwhile. When I did purchase this, it was actually really cheap, but I was able to talk the people into giving me the pigtail with it because it'd be a deal breaker without it. And it's not perfect, but it was cheap. You know, paint's worn through right there, and there's a crack right there in the thing, but I mean, none of this stuff is really bad. So I knew it was going to be kind of big, and it could be made to fit the dash pretty easily, but it would fit so much better right there, just like that. And there would actually be clearance between the console. There's a little panel that went, you know, the dashboard connected to the console. There's a little panel in there that had the power port, and it had a blank off, which was actually the factory fog light switch location, which my cruise control switch will snap right into it. And then it had a little pocket, and then cup holders and the rest of the console. And it only comes to about right here. So that thing will take up that gap beautifully. Of course, I'll have to get in there and make little filler panels and upholster them and do all that kind of stuff. But right now, I'm going to go grab my schematics that I made. Okay. So this is going to be the final clip in the dashboard video, at least for part one. There will be another part. So where we're at right now, I've got the bracketry made to hang the CRV controls. I've got the little panels on the side. Those are going to be covered in vinyl. What I'm going to have to do down the road is get the console in and kind of tie everything together and match it up, but that's, you know, down the road. I'm not going to do any Bondo work on this until it's sandblasted. I'm not going to sandblast it until after the holes are cut for the vents, and those I'm pretty sure are a Christmas present, so they will be here after Christmas. So we'll get the 4 holes cut, and then I will build a glove box. I'm not going to be able to use that blow molded one. And I got to make sure I have clearance to the defroster duct that goes here. So it'll probably go back at least as far as that goes, maybe at an angle, probably. Hopefully at least that deep, because these things had a ridiculously deep glove box. Of course, originally the glove box went all the way out to the side there, and so I would have had to cut it to put the hose through. But again, this is it for part one. Part two will be coming, and those other things will get done. Once that's done, and it's sandblasted. It'll get treated. This will get bondoed up. This will all get bondoed up. This will probably get a little bit of filler. This over here might get a little bit of filler. I'll have to make a cover for that, but the radio will go in there. I need to make a bracket that goes in the back to support it. That, you know, that'll all get done on the next video.